Every time a new Galaxy Note comes out, I'm ready for disappointment, as I tend to not like the S series being too experimental without really excelling at anything, but at the end of the day I remember why I love the Note series the most out of their entire portfolio. It's basically their most complete and best optimized phone, keeping the best features of the S models, improving on their worst features, while giving you a great addition with the S-Pen, which this year is even better. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra 5G. I was surprised how it was marketed as what it actually is. Primarily a business phone that sets itself apart with the S-Pen while being a flagship Android phone. This is nice to see, as the Note 9 was marketed as a gaming device with Fortnite skins, and the Note 10 was marketed as a creator phone where most influencers are happy to buy their next iPhone with that sponsor money. Now, right off the bat, you can see that the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is a premium smartphone. The build quality and how it actually feels is so premium, and the box design looks so classy and professional that it's impossible to find an argument against its quality and design besides personal taste. Except maybe that huge camera bump that is so big that it kind of supports your grip of the phone. But generally speaking, if you want to be noticed, this phone will achieve that at a time where 2 out of 3 smartphones look the same. It has a matte surface and consists of Gorilla Glass Victus, where you'd actually think it's metal until you knock on it. The 6.9-inch display is absolutely beautiful and definitely the best display in any smartphone, for which Samsung is well known for. A general rule of thumb is whenever a new Samsung flagship or a new iPhone comes out, the newer one has the currently best panel built in. And now, using it in Full HD at least, you have an adaptive refresh rate of 120Hz, which makes the experience with the phone extremely smooth. You can go up to QHD, but the 120Hz experience is more preferable than a higher resolution. In fact, I never used any Samsung phone in QHD mode. Adaptive means that the display will lower its refresh rate if the battery is low, for example. The display is also made by Gorilla Glass Victus, where the frame is completely made of stainless steel. The front also houses a small punch-hole selfie camera with the usual Samsung quality during the day, getting a bit weaker at night, and a fingerprint reader which is fairly fast now. Other than that, we have a pretty good stereo speaker, where the top speaker is super thin and very well hidden within that already small bezel, and I actually didn't notice that there is a speaker at first. Internally, we have the Exynos 990 on the global version and the Snapdragon 865 Plus on the US version. And as with the S20 Ultra, the Snapdragon version is definitely superior. While both offer you more performance than you might ever need, the Snapdragon version, in addition to be a slightly better performer, doesn't get as hot as the Exynos version. Combined with the 12GB of RAM, you'll never have any performance issues, and even if Samsung wants you to try Xbox game streaming, current Android phones all run perfectly smooth on this phone, and even future games will run smooth on this phone. I'm also editing high resolution videos with Adobe Rush, which works perfectly fine, where some of my flagship phones struggle hard when cutting 4K. Speaking of 4K, you can also record 8K 24fps. It's not supported, however, in Adobe Rush, so you have to use the integrated editor, where it's at least smooth enough to work with it. However, I'd stick with up to 4K 60fps, as you don't need a tripod, you have at least 30fps, and it's not heavily cropped. You can store your 8K videos on your internal storage, where you can choose between 256GB and 512GB. However, you can add another terabyte via microSD if you like to, or alternatively use dual SIM. The battery size is 4500 mAh, charging with up to 25 Watt to 50% within 30 minutes, but fast Qi wireless is also supported. This is quite slow compared to pretty much all Chinese brands who offer almost double the speed, but nothing to really complain about. The good thing is that the battery is definitely made for a full day use, but you won't get more than that. At the end of the day, that's enough, though I find my 2 days charging schedule with the Huawei P40 Pro to be more comfortable. With the camera, we get the 108 megapixel f1.8 wide angle, 12 megapixel periscope telephoto sensor with 5x optical zoom, going up to 50x hybrid zoom, where Samsung rolled back with their 100x zoom, which basically just was a marketing trick. But the 50x zoom is actually good in a way that it gets similar results as the Huawei P40 Pro, only the shutter speed is way slower. The last sensor is a 12 megapixel ultrawide. Generally, the photo quality is pretty good, being literally the same as on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. So I won't go much into detail except that it gets outperformed by the much cheaper Google Pixel 4a during daylight and night, which only loses against the zoom and ultrawide capabilities of the Note 20 Ultra and its superior video quality. While I'm not much in love with Samsung's UI, especially when it comes to this, I do love their productivity features and the S-Pen and pretty much everything you can do with it. Finally, the S-Pen has improved greatly, where the latency went down from 42 milliseconds to 9 milliseconds. It is immediately noticeable as there is no visible delay in writing, which makes the writing feel much more natural and leads to less mistakes. The S-Pen is pretty much a tool to include in your workflow to take more precise screenshots, to translate on the fly, to even control your phone's actions from further away when you do presentations, for example, and you can use it as a shutter button. While there are actually no new features with the S-Pen, I think the latency change is a pretty big deal. That's all I got for today about the Note 20 Ultra 5G. As for the price, around $1,250 or euro, I think it's relatively okay for the target group it wants to reach, and being a fairly complete package that is good at everything but doesn't excel at anything. What mostly justifies it compared to other phones is the huge and beautiful display, and especially the S-Pen, where the Note is still very unique.